Unaware the company he worked for was my secret inheritance, my husband tried to sell it to fund his mistress. What I did next left them both with nothing. He didn't just cheat on his wife. He sat across from another woman in a quiet restaurant, slid a flash drive across the table, and calmly tried to sell secret company data to fund a new life with his mistress, never knowing that the company he was betraying belonged to the very woman he was throwing away. In the months leading up to that night, Emma Carter walked through the halls of the building her late father once ran, a place she had secretly owned for years through a hidden trust in her maiden name. To most people, she was just a quiet administration worker who mostly sent emails from home and showed up at the office for archive days and policy reviews. To Michael Collins, her husband, she was a soft, supportive wife who knew nothing about the high-level decisions at his job. He had no idea she was the majority owner. He had no idea every file he pulled, every system he accessed, every transfer he made was under her legal protection. He had no idea the cameras that watched him in the office were the same cameras she grew up watching beside her father. While Michael whispered promises to Sophie Hale in parked cars and bragged that he was close to selling proprietary assets, Emma was in her father's old office and in her small home workspace, opening access logs, downloading security footage, and collecting bank records that slowly tied every move back to him. Over days, she watched the pattern form. She watched him take confidential files home. She watched him meet a competitor's agent in the parking lot. She watched him send the message, "It's done. We're ready." He thought he was clever. He thought his wife was naive. He thought the company was just a stepping stone, and that Sophie was his future. What he never imagined was this. The ordinary woman waiting quietly at home was not only the hidden owner of the company he worked for, but a daughter who had been trained since childhood to read contracts, track fraud, and protect her inheritance. She had already gathered every email, every access log, every transfer, and every second of footage she needed. Not just to protect herself, but to make sure when he finally walked into that evaluation meeting, he would be the only one who didn't know what was really happening. Emma didn't raise her voice. She didn't rush. She simply stepped out of the shadows, one document at a time. Dear viewers, thank you for being here. If you watch without subscribing, it's like letting Emma's quiet strength be ignored while loud liars run free. When you click that button, you stand with every person betrayed by the one they trusted most, every heir defending their legacy, and every calm soul planning a comeback in silence. Please subscribe now. And in the comments, tell me where you're watching from. The hallway was too quiet, too still, too heavy. Emma Carter, early 30s, paused at the doorway of her late father's office, as if the air itself pushed against her. Her hand trembled against the frame. Her breath caught halfway in her chest, and for a moment, she couldn't move. It felt like stepping into a sealed vault of memories, one she wasn't sure she was ready to open. She was supposed to be here for something practical, a quiet day reviewing old contracts and policy files ahead of an upcoming audit. Just administration work, like always. That was the story everyone knew. Then she stepped inside. The room had not changed since the day her father passed. His polished wooden desk still faced the broad window. His old fountain pen still rested exactly where he left it. The shelves were lined with binders labeled in his perfect handwriting. And there, centered on the front of the desk, was the brass nameplate with his initials. J.C. Emma reached out. Her fingers brushed the cold metal. And the moment her skin touched it, a ripple of memory hit her. Emma, at 9 years old, tiny legs dangling from the office chair. Her father, James Carter, tall and warm-eyed, leaned beside her. Papers towered behind him, but he looked at her with all the time in the world. "Quiet power is the strongest kind," he told her. "One day this place will be yours. Protect it." Young Emma had nodded, not fully understanding, but trusting him completely. He placed a hand on her small shoulder, steady and sure, as if he was handing her the world. Back to present. Emma took a shaky breath. She was the quiet power now, but almost no one knew that, except the company lawyer and 2 long-retired employees who had served her father until the end. Over time, one of those men passed away, and a single trusted IT head was quietly added to the circle, only as much as he needed to know to protect the trust. because her father had not given the company to her the usual way. He had placed it in a trust under her maiden name, Emma Carter, and made her promise to reveal her ownership only when she felt safe, emotionally, mentally, and personally. He feared that announcing a young daughter as the heir would attract people who wanted her trust fund, not her heart. For years, she honored him by keeping her identity hidden. She worked remotely in administration, answering emails, reviewing reports, and signing forms under a neutral title. On the system, she looked like a mid-level remote administrator who handled documentation and compliance. To her coworkers, she was ordinary, quiet, efficient. To her father's legacy, she was the unseen shield. She moved to the side of the office, where a tall metal cabinet stood locked, her father's last gift. It held the documents of ownership, the trust deeds, the original agreements, and every signature that tied her bloodline to the company. The key, which she wore on a thin chain beneath her blouse, pressed lightly against her chest. She did not open the cabinet, not yet. She only rested her hand against it, letting the cool steel ground her. Her life had always been a blend of two worlds. The world she inherited, old papers, quiet rooms, her father's teachings. The world she married into, Michael's ambition, his charm, his easy confidence. Emma loved simply, lived simply, trusted simply, maybe too simply. She walked to the side table where an old security monitor sat. Her father had installed it decades ago to observe the building entrance. Years later, at her request, the IT head connected it to the modern digital camera system so she could still see the lobby feeds from this room whenever she visited. Out of habit, something she had done since childhood, she pressed the power button. The screen flickered alive. Footage from the lobby appeared. People moved through the frame, chatting, holding coffee cups, walking toward elevators. The date and timestamp in the corner confirmed what she already knew. Live feed. Then she saw him. Michael Collins, her husband, early 30s, handsome, charismatic, sharply dressed. He had worked at the company for 3 years. To everyone, he was the rising star. To Emma, he was the man she believed in, a man she trusted enough to bring into her father's world, even if he never knew the true depth of her connection to it. Michael walked through the lobby with 2 coworkers. He was laughing loudly, gesturing with his hands. Emma leaned closer to the monitor, expecting to read his lips, saying another harmless story, something light, something normal. Instead, Michael leaned in toward the 2 men, his expression shifting into something harder, and said with a grin that twisted Emma's stomach, "One day, this place will be mine." Emma froze. Her blood turned cold, not from fear, but from confusion. Michael spoke with the ease of someone claiming land he already owned. His smile was wide, confident, almost arrogant. His co-workers chuckled as if it was a joke, but Michael didn't laugh. He meant every word. Emma's fingers curled around the edge of the desk. Why would he say that? Why would he think that? Her heart pounded as she stared at the screen, her reflection faint in the glass, her face shifting from surprise to something far heavier. Unease, a feeling she had not felt in years. Something was wrong, something she could not yet name, something waiting in the shadows of tomorrow. As she watched him walk away on the screen, a quiet thought rose inside her, uninvited and chilling. What else has he been saying? And to whom? The silence in the house hit Emma like a blast of cold wind. It was sharp, sudden, and filled with something she couldn't name yet. She shut the front door behind her, still shaken by what she saw on the surveillance screen. Michael laughing, bragging, claiming the company as if it belonged to him. Her heart hadn't stopped pounding since. The intensity followed her into the living room. She stood there frozen, her keys still in her hand, the echo of his words repeating over and over. One day, this place will be mine. Her breath trembled. She needed answers. But answers rarely came from reactions. They came from understanding. Emma slowly walked to the couch and sat down, hands clasped tightly together. Her mind shifted from the shock of today to the history that led her here, back to the first time she believed Michael's ambition was something pure, something safe. Michael Collins had been 20-something, charming, confident, a man who loved big ideas and bigger dreams. He worked in sales back then, always talking about promotions, opportunities, improving himself. He met Emma at a small charity event organized in memory of her father. She attended quietly at the back, using only her first name. He told her she was refreshing and different from the pretenders. Back then, he believed Emma was a gentle middle-class woman, quiet, humble, soft-spoken. He didn't know about her inheritance. He didn't know who her father was. He didn't even ask many questions. Emma liked that. It felt like he loved her, not the money she quietly held. Michael joked once about her last name, Carter, saying it sounded like rich people. Emma laughed it off and told him it was just a name. He shrugged and accepted it. He assumed she was simple, ordinary, and that suited him fine. Emma remembered the early mornings after they married, Michael's warm smile, his excited rambling about his plans, his dreams of climbing the corporate ladder, the speeches he practiced in the mirror. She had supported him fully, believing his drive came from wanting a shared future. It made her proud in a way, but now, after the surveillance footage, those memories felt like soft fabric being pulled apart, thread by thread. Back to present. Emma sat straighter, staring at the wedding photo on the shelf. In it, Michael held her too tightly, almost gripping her. Back then, she thought it was passion. Now she wondered if it was possession. That thought led to another memory. Subtle hints she had ignored. Michael making jokes about their bosses being clueless old men. Michael mentioning a coworker who married up and gained power through his wife's family. Michael brushing off any mention of her father with, "He seemed fine. Why talk about the past?" Michael repeatedly asking about long-term benefits and who has real control around here. At the time, she took these as harmless, maybe even ambitious jokes, but now they felt like little pieces of a larger picture, one she had never looked at closely enough. She rubbed her wrist absently, grounding herself. Michael had changed in the last year. He was often busy, always stepping outside to take calls, constantly checking emails during dinner, brushing her off with charming smiles that didn't reach his eyes. He still kissed her forehead in the mornings, still asked about her day, still acted like a caring husband. But something underneath was different, something distant, something cold. She remembered overhearing him once telling a coworker, "I'll get my shot. People just need to realize I'm the future." At the time, she thought he meant a promotion. Now she wondered if he meant something else entirely. Emma stood and walked into the kitchen. The tension in her chest wouldn't leave. She felt like she had stepped into the middle of a story she didn't know she was part of. Just as she set a glass down on the counter, the front door opened. Michael walked in, loosening his tie. He looked tired but put on a smile when he saw her, as if flipping a switch. "Hey, Em," he said, voice warm, too practiced. "Long day?" She nodded. "You could say that." Michael kissed her cheek lightly, already pulling out his phone. Scrolling quickly, thumb moving with urgency he tried to hide. His lock screen lit up without asking for a code. He had turned off the automatic lock months ago, saying it was annoying at home. Emma watched him carefully. He didn't notice. Then it happened. His phone buzzed, sharp, impatient. The screen lit up in his hand. Emma's eyes flicked to it instinctively, only for a second. A message preview glowed on the screen. "When are you getting the money? I'm tired of waiting." The floor beneath her seemed to tilt. Michael locked his phone fast. Too fast. He didn't look at her. Emma's heart thudded once. Heavy, warning. Something was slipping out of the shadows, and she could feel it coming. Emma turned away, her mind racing, already knowing this message was not random. Someone was counting on Michael, and she was about to find out what he was really doing at work. Michael burst through the glass doors of the office building the next morning with a rush of energy that felt almost aggressive. His voice carried across the lobby as he spoke loudly to a coworker walking beside him. Anyone watching him would think he owned the place. His stride was bold. His smile was sharp. His confidence was louder than the footsteps that echoed around him. He wasn't just walking to work. He was marching towards something. But Emma, watching the morning unfold from a split-screen security feed in her small home office, felt a different rush entirely. Fear. The message she saw last night had not left her mind. "When are you getting the money? I'm tired of waiting." It kept replaying like a warning she could not escape. Years ago, with the help of the trusted IT head, she'd been given a secure remote login to the building's camera system under a generic admin profile. Necessary, they said, for trust oversight and off-site policy review. It was a quiet arrangement, buried in technical paperwork. Now, watching Michael from a distance, she felt the pieces shifting. The intensity eased into reflection. She remembered when Michael first got this job 3 years ago. He was grateful, nervous, excited. He talked about starting from the bottom and earning respect the right way. Emma supported him, helped him review presentations, packed his lunches, encouraged him. She thought she was watching her husband grow into his own strength, but what she saw now wasn't growth. It was hunger. Dangerous, sharp-edged hunger. On the screen, Michael leaned against the reception desk, laughing with his co-worker Mark Dawson, a man in his mid-30s who worked in finance. Mark was friendly, easygoing, and respected by many. Michael lowered his voice, but still spoke with enough confidence for anyone nearby to hear. The lobby cameras had audio. "Big change is coming," Michael said, tapping the desk. "This place will look very different soon. Trust me." Mark raised a brow. "Promotion coming your way?" Michael smirked. "Something better." Emma's heart tightened. She knew that tone. It was the same tone he used when he bragged in the lobby days ago. Michael moved down the hall toward his office. Emma clicked through the camera list until she landed on the small copy room feed. She watched as he checked the hallway, then opened a confidential file drawer. He took out several folders, client profiles, internal strategy papers, information that belonged to teams he didn't directly work with. His badge technically allowed access because of a role expansion Emma herself had once recommended. But he had no legitimate reason to pull those specific documents today. He pulled out his phone. He snapped pictures of the documents. Quick, precise, practiced. Logic tightener. But he never touched the physical cabinet containing ownership documents because he didn't know it existed. And in the digital system, that section was fully restricted under a separate Carter Trust layer. No matter how ambitious he was, he didn't have the clearance to find what Emma held. This wasn't an attempt to claim title. This was something else. Something he thought he could use to gain leverage or money fast. Emma swallowed hard. Her father's voice drifted back to her like a cold wind. James Carter sat across from her in the office years ago. "Never assume proximity means loyalty," he warned gently. "Keep your eyes open. Sometimes the closest person is the first to want more." At the time, she thought he meant business partners. She never imagined the warning might include her own husband. On the screen, Michael slipped the documents into his bag and left the room, but Emma kept watching. Later that afternoon, Michael walked out of the building during lunch. Emma switched to an exterior camera feed. He crossed the parking lot with quick, focused steps. A black sedan sat parked near the far end. Inside, a woman waited. Emma felt her breath catch. The woman was Sophie Hale, mid-20s, stylish, confident, the same name she suspected had been behind the late-night messages. Sophie opened the passenger door, and Michael slid in beside her. He didn't hesitate. He didn't look around nervously. He moved like someone who had done this before. He kissed her hand. Emma felt as if someone pressed a hand hard against her chest. The betrayal wasn't loud. It was quiet, intimate, practiced. Their lips moved in conversation. But the camera could not pick up sound inside the car. Still, Sophie's gestures were sharp, demanding. Michael's expression tightened with frustration and impatience, then shifted into determination, almost certainty. They spoke for several minutes until Sophie passed him a thick envelope. He opened it. Papers inside. He skimmed fast, eyes widening slightly. Emma leaned closer to the screen without realizing it. Then Sophie tapped her fingers twice on the steering wheel. A subtle signal. A man stepped from behind the sedan, middle-aged, suit jacket, dark briefcase. Emma recognized him, Leon Price, a representative from a competitor company her father never trusted. Her pulse hammered. She'd heard his name more than once in old board minutes. Michael shook Leon's hand. Leon pushed a folder across the seat toward him. Discreet. Emma couldn't hear the words, but she didn't need to. The brief handshake, the exchange folder, the hungry light in Michael's eyes told her everything. This wasn't networking. This was plotting. As Sophie's car eventually pulled away and Leon disappeared into the lot, Emma stared at the screen, heart racing. She knew now, Michael wasn't just ambitious. He was planning something, and Emma sensed that whatever move he meant would soon reach beyond secret meetings and files and into the walls of their own home. The moment Emma heard the shower start, her heart slammed against her ribs with a force that nearly knocked the air from her chest. She stood frozen at the foot of the bed, staring at Michael's laptop sitting open on the nightstand. The screen glowed faintly in the dim room, like it was daring her to look. He had brought it home, tossed it carelessly on the bed, and gone straight to the bathroom. No password prompt, no lock screen. He always said, "It's just faster this way at home," as if security stopped at their front door. Intensity surged through her. She walked toward it. Her hands shook, not from fear, but from truth pressing too close. She sat, pulled the laptop closer, and the instant the desktop appeared, her stomach dropped. A folder sat right in the center of the screen titled Personal. The name felt wrong, heavy, mocking. She clicked it. Emails filled the screen, messages marked private, marked urgent, marked unread, and one name repeated over and over, Sophie Hale. Emma's breath hitched as she opened the first message. "I'm not waiting forever, Michael. If you want a future with me, prove it." Another, "You promised me a better life. I won't settle for cheap hotels and excuses." Another, "Bring the money. I won't be embarrassed again." Emma held the edge of the laptop so tightly her knuckles whitened. This wasn't an innocent flirtation. This wasn't a moment of weakness. This was a plan. She clicked another email. The subject line read, "Our condo plans." A sinking feeling spread through her chest like ice. The message contained photos of a luxury condo, marble floors, city views, a private pool. Sophie had highlighted areas she wanted remodeled. She had written, "This is where we start our real life. But without money, we have nothing." Emma swallowed hard, vision blurring. The betrayal wasn't only emotional, it was financial, strategic, calculated. She clicked another message, this one from Michael to Sophie. "I'm close. Once I sell the proprietary assets, we'll have enough. I just need access for a little longer." Proprietary assets. Emma's head spun. This was company data, her father's company, her inheritance. Her breath shook as she leaned back, the world closing in around her. Memories rose, warm, soft, hopeful. A flashback hit her like a knife twisting slowly. Michael held her hands and smiled at her with the sincerity of a man who looked like he meant it. "I'll build us a future," he whispered. "I'd never betray you." She believed him, completely, fully, with her entire heart. Back then, she didn't know betrayal doesn't arrive loudly. It arrives in pieces, small lies, quiet secrets, hidden emails, promises made to someone else. Emma returned to the screen, pain throbbing beneath her ribs. She opened more emails. Sophie wrote, "You're broke, Michael. I didn't leave my last relationship for a man who can't provide. Bring me what you promised." Another, "Don't embarrass me again. Deliver or I'm done." Logic tightened instantly. This wasn't love. Sophie was pushing. Sophie was demanding. Sophie was manipulating him like a lever. Emma felt a strange mixture of devastation and clarity. Michael wasn't cheating because he fell in love. He was cheating because someone stroked his ego, fed his insecurities, and dangled a life he didn't earn. She clicked one last email, the most recent one, received only minutes before he stepped into the shower. Its subject line, "We're almost there." Emma opened it. "Once I sell this company data, we're free." Emma gasped aloud, her hand covering her mouth. He didn't know. He had no idea. He was planning to sell data from a company his wife secretly owned. Her inheritance, her father's legacy, her childhood promises. Emma's entire world tilted. Her pulse hammered in her ears, but she didn't close the laptop. She stared at the screen, the words burning into her memory. Quietly, she forwarded the entire email thread to a secure account tied to the Carter Trust, an account Michael didn't know existed, before closing the program. He was risking everything, hers, not his, and he didn't even know it. From behind the bathroom door, the shower turned off. Emma quickly closed the folder and let the laptop fall back into the exact angle she'd found it. She stepped away from the nightstand, breathing slowly, heartbeat pounding with a dangerous new truth. Michael wasn't just unfaithful, he was preparing to betray something far bigger. And Emma sensed she had only discovered the surface, because whatever he planned next would leave traces inside the very company she swore to protect. The moment Emma stepped into the small conference room, the intensity hit her like a wave. The blinds were drawn, the lights were dim. A stack of files sat on the table like evidence, waiting for judgment. This meeting hadn't been random. The night after she read Michael's emails, she sent a quiet message from her admin account to the internal auditor, flagging irregular access patterns tied to his profile. She never mentioned he was her husband. She only attached times and file names. Now she was here to see what he had found. Sitting across from her was Daniel Reed, the company's internal auditor. A man in his late 40s with calm eyes and a reputation for uncovering truth others tried to hide. To him, she was still the reserved administration staff member who handled policy paperwork and occasionally liaised on behalf of the trust. The door clicked shut behind them. The room felt sealed, heavy, almost airless. Daniel didn't waste time. He opened the first file and slid a printed access log across the table. "Emma, you need to see this." She leaned forward and her stomach tightened instantly. The report listed every confidential file Michael had accessed in the past 6 months. Client portfolios, internal pricing models, strategy documents, sensitive formulas her father created before he died. Her husband had taken it all. Emma's pulse spiked. The adrenaline was instant, hot, and sharp. Daniel watched her carefully. "I knew something was wrong the moment I noticed the pattern. He took documents he had no reason to touch, outside the scope of his role." Emma closed her eyes for a moment, fighting the ache pushing against her ribs. She felt anger, sadness, disbelief, all tangled together. "How did he even get this level of access?" Daniel asked quietly. Emma swallowed. Here came the truth she could no longer avoid. Not the full story of her ownership, but the part she could say aloud. "I recommended him," she said softly, "years ago when he first joined. I told HR he was capable and could handle more responsibility. They widened his access after that. When Michael first joined the company, he was placed in a modest position, but Emma saw his potential. She admired his passion. She trusted his promises. So she quietly told the HR director that he would excel with broader access. Her voice wavered as she whispered, "I gave him the chance. I pushed for him to have what he needed to grow. And now he was using it to betray her, without even knowing how deep that betrayal went." Her heart twisted painfully. Daniel pulled out another file, a folder marked Private Acquisition Opportunity. He opened it, showing emails Michael drafted to a competing firm. He had prepared a full packet, selling the idea of a secret chance to acquire valuable internal assets before they hit the market. Emma's breath caught. He wasn't guessing. He wasn't stumbling. He was planning. Daniel flipped through the pages. He downloaded proprietary formulas last week, and based on his file names and these draft attachments, he intends to sell all of this. Emma remembered her father's words as if he stood beside her. She was 24, nervous but eager, sitting beside him in the same building. He placed paperwork in front of her and said, "Trust must be earned, not gifted." She laughed back then. She thought he worried too much. Now sitting across from Daniel with proof of her husband's betrayal, she realized the truth. She had gifted trust to a man who didn't deserve it. Emma opened her eyes slowly. What else did he take? Daniel slid the final stack forward. Draft agreements, contact with a competitor named Leon Price, and emails to someone named Sophie, he said, glancing up. He had no idea that name already burned in Emma's chest. Based on this, I believe he's planning to hand everything over within days, maybe even sooner. Emma looked down at the papers. Her hands trembled, but her face was cold, controlled. She would honor her father now, not with emotion, but with strength. Daniel leaned closer. I can freeze his access right now, before he does more harm. It's within policy for internal fraud suspicions. The room went still. This was the moment. She could stop everything. She could save the company instantly. But that wasn't enough. Michael needed to expose himself, fully, undeniably, completely. He needed to walk into his own downfall, carrying every piece of evidence with him. Emma lifted her head. Her voice was calm, chilling, steady. "Not yet," she said. "Document everything. Log every access. I need him to finish everything, so he buries himself with his own actions." Daniel stared at her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. He understood this wasn't just about policy anymore. It was about truth that could stand up in any room, boardroom or courtroom. The plan was no longer just about protection, it was about justice. Emma stood, straightened her blouse, and took a deep breath. Her heart hurt, but her resolve tightened like steel. Michael wanted to play with power. He had no idea the real owner had finally stepped into the game, even if he still didn't know her name set on the deeds. As Emma left the room, a quiet fear stirred inside her, because she sensed Michael was already moving faster than she expected, and the next evidence she'd find would come from places far beyond spreadsheets and office hallways. Emma moved fast, faster than the fear rising in her chest. The moment she stepped inside her home office, she shut the door behind her with a force she didn't know she had. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears. Every image from the last few days flashed before her eyes. Michael taking confidential files, meeting Sophie in the car, shaking hands with Leon, preparing documents for a secret sale, and the email where he wrote, "Once I sell this company data, we're free." She dropped into her chair, opened her laptop, and began working with an intensity that felt almost electric. This was war, a quiet one, silent, precise, and powerful. She opened the folder she created moments earlier. Evidence. Her hands moved quickly, steady despite everything. She pulled up the secure Carter Trust email account and opened the copies of Michael's messages she had forwarded from his laptop. She saved each email and attachment into organized subfolders: emails, Sophie, draft deals, competitor, condo plans. Then she logged into the company's secure admin system using the credentials only a few people knew she had. She downloaded the access logs Daniel had sent earlier, saving them alongside the emails. She clipped CCTV footage showing Michael handing documents to Sophie, another showing him meeting Leon in the parking lot. Each file labeled with the exact date and time. Every piece of betrayal had become data. Every lie had a record now, and Emma was the keeper of all of it. As she gathered proof, her mind drifted into a memory. Soft at first, then sharp. Emma sat at her father's desk when she was 19, her hair tied back, papers spread around her. Her father, patient and calm, leaned over her shoulder. "Never rush through a contract," he said gently. "People hide harm in small lines." She had asked him why he wanted her to learn all this so young. His answer returned to her now with painful clarity. "Because one day someone will try to take what belongs to you, and you must know how to fight quietly." Emma blinked, returning to the present. She now understood exactly what he meant. She wasn't just protecting a company, she was protecting a promise. She clicked into her online banking app next, one she and Michael had shared access to for years. There were their joint accounts, and below, a list of linked profiles for convenience, where he'd once added his personal account so they could transfer money easily. She opened his. Hidden transfers from Michael's account to Sophie every week. Thousands, sometimes more. Some had vague descriptions: consulting, personal expense, reimbursement. Others had no description at all. Another blow, another truth. Her chest tightened, but she kept going. Next, she opened the CCTV logs again through the remote system. She found clear footage of Michael meeting Leon Price in the parking lot. Leon handing him a folder under the table. Michael whispering something with a greedy smile. She clipped the video and saved it with the rest. Every piece connected, every action painted the full picture. Michael wasn't being forced into this. Michael wasn't a confused man in over his head. Michael was willingly betraying her, betraying the company, betraying everything her father built. She felt pain, yes, but pain was no longer in control. Strategy was. She reached for her phone and dialed a number she hadn't used in months. The call rang twice. A calm voice answered. "Emma?" It was Mr. Gray, the company's longtime lawyer, a man her father trusted deeply, and a man who always promised to watch over her, even after James Carter passed away. Mr. Gray was in his early 60s, experienced, sharp-eyed, loyal to the Carter legacy. "I need a private meeting," Emma said. Her voice was steady now, cold. He didn't ask questions. "Come in." She gathered her files, then reached out to two more people quietly. Mrs. Whitford, a retired employee her father trusted, known for her honesty and long memory of how things used to be. Ethan Moore, the IT head who helped keep her ownership a secret for years and who had wired the old monitor and set up her remote access. Within hours, they were seated together in a small office inside the building her father once ruled. They looked at Emma the way her father once did, with respect. Emma placed the evidence on the table. Mr. Gray reviewed everything slowly. His expression darkened with every page, every screenshot, every transfer record. Mrs. Whitford shook her head, whispering, "Your father would be heartbroken." Ethan frowned, pulling up backup system logs on his laptop to verify timestamps and confirm there was no doubt about who accessed what and when. All three of them stood behind her silently, loyal to her legacy, loyal to the truth. After a long pause, Mr. Gray looked up. "Emma, this is bad," he said. "Michael is setting himself up for a criminal offense. Once he attempts the sale, once he actually transfers this data for money, he commits corporate fraud. That's the line." He leaned forward, voice low but firm. "If you want justice, the timing must be perfect." Emma's eyes hardened, cold and focused. "Then we wait," she said quietly. "We watch every move. Ethan, log everything. Mr. Gray, be ready the second he crosses that line." Her father once taught her that the strongest power is silent power. Now she understood why. As Emma stood to leave, a chill ran through her, because something told her Michael was about to take his next step sooner than she expected, and it would happen far away from offices and corridors. The moment Emma stepped into the restaurant parking lot, intensity hit her like a punch to the chest. Her breath caught, her hands trembled, and her heart raced with a force that felt almost violent. She stood hidden behind a row of cars, eyes locked on the glass windows of the small private restaurant where Michael and Sophie were meeting. She knew what she was about to witness. She knew it would hurt, but she also knew she had to see it with her own eyes. Earlier that day, Ethan had quietly forwarded her a copy of Michael's calendar entry. Lunch, client discussion. The location matched the restaurant in front of her. No client name, no company label, just a vague note. Now she knew why. Inside, Michael sat across from Sophie Hale, the woman who had been pulling him deeper and deeper into betrayal. Sophie, mid-20s, elegant, polished, and sharp-tongued, leaned back in her chair with the confidence of someone who believed she controlled everything. Through the window, Emma could see Sophie's lips move quickly, her expression annoyed, impatient. Michael sat stiffly, trying to keep his composure, but Emma could read the tension in his shoulders. He looked stressed, exhausted, desperate. Emma pressed closer, her pulse thundering. The restaurant window was cracked open at the top to let air in, and every few words slipped through the small gap. Inside, Sophie leaned forward, voice rising, just enough for Emma to catch pieces through the glass. "You told me you were close," Sophie snapped, her chin tilted with arrogance. "When will you sell those files? I won't wait forever, Michael. I left everything for you. Don't make me regret it." Sophie's tone was sharp, cutting, filled with superiority. Michael flinched slightly but tried to hide it. He reached into his jacket. Emma's chest tightened. He pulled out a small flash drive. Silver, plain, familiar. Sophie's eyes widened with excitement, her anger disappearing instantly. Emma's breath seized. That drive contained her father's work, his legacy, years of strategy, formulas, confidential material that took a lifetime to build. Michael placed the flash drive on the table with a quiet, almost proud motion. Emma felt something tear inside her, not loud, not sudden, but slow and painful. Sophie reached for Michael's hand, her voice softening, calculating. "This is it," she whispered. "Once you hand this over, we can finally start our life." Michael nodded, his jaw tight, eyes shining with a need to please her. Emma forced herself to focus, to breathe, to remember why she was here. She wasn't here for tears or rage. She was here for truth, and the truth was right in front of her. As Michael and Sophie stood to leave, Emma stepped back into the shadows. She expected them to walk out holding hands, maybe whispering promises to each other. But what she saw instead nearly brought her to her knees. Sophie lifted her wrist to brush her hair back. A bracelet glimmered on her arm, delicate gold engraved on the inside with two letters Emma knew by heart. E and M, Emma's gift. A gift she had given Michael on their second anniversary, their initials joined together. Her breath left her body in one painful exhale. Michael had told her he lost that bracelet months ago. He even pretended to search the house for it, checking under cushions and in drawers. But he didn't lose it. He gave it away. Another lie. Another sign she ignored. Another piece of her marriage ripped away. Her eyes stung, but she didn't cry. Not now. She watched them walk toward the parking lot. Sophie laughed loudly, tossing her head back, bracelet sparkling under the streetlights. Michael smiled, forced but eager, as if her approval was oxygen he couldn't live without. Emma gripped her phone in her pocket. She felt her strength harden. She needed to remember this moment, not for pain, but for clarity. Her husband didn't love her. He loved the idea of being someone powerful, someone desired, someone admired. Sophie fed that hunger. He followed it blindly. Emma stayed hidden as they reached Sophie's car. She couldn't hear their words anymore, but their body language did all the talking. Sophie leaned in close, whispering something into Michael's ear. He nodded, determination flickering in his eyes. Then Michael stepped back, pulled out his work phone, the one issued by the company, and typed quickly. Emma's instincts screamed. Her heart pounded in warning. A second later, her phone buzzed, a notification from a monitoring alert Ethan had quietly set up earlier that afternoon. Any outgoing message from Michael's company device to specific flagged contacts or competitor domains would trigger it. New flagged message sent from user, M. Collins, the alert read. Emma opened the notification. The automated copy of the message displayed on her screen. It's done. We're ready. Emma's breath froze. Ready for what? Ready to betray everything? Ready to hand over her father's legacy? The trap she created with Mr. Gray and Ethan was now fully set, and Michael had walked straight into it. As Sophie's car drove away, Emma felt a chilling certainty. The next move Michael made would drag him straight into a room he thought he wanted, not knowing it had already been prepared as his downfall. Michael stormed through the hallway with the confidence of a man convinced the world finally recognized his worth. His shoulders were squared, his stride sharp, his face set with a smug smile. The email he received that morning, a mandatory evaluation meeting regarding your future with the company, only fed his belief. The wording sounded formal, but in his mind, it translated to one thing: promotion. He thought the company had finally realized his potential. He didn't know he was walking into the biggest trap of his life. The elevator doors slid open, and he stepped into the top-floor hallway, adjusting his tie. He imagined a new title, a raise, maybe even a position close to the board. Sophie's voice echoed in his head. Make it happen, Michael. Don't disappoint me again. He pushed open the boardroom door without knocking, and everything inside him froze. The room was filled, 10 board members seated in perfect formation, their faces unreadable. Security guards stood near the walls, motionless but alert. At the center of the long table sat Mr. Gray, the company lawyer, stern and calm. And at the head of the table, Emma, his wife, his quiet, gentle, predictable wife. But she wasn't quiet now. She wasn't gentle now. She sat straight, composed, her maiden name, Emma Carter, displayed on a nameplate in front of her. Next to it lay a slim folder with the Carter Trust seal, the same name tied to the trust records he never bothered to ask about. Michael's breath stuttered. He tried to smile, but it collapsed halfway. Emma, he said, voice cracking. What are you doing here? Emma didn't speak at first. She simply slid a signed document across the table toward the center. At the top, in bold letters, majority ownership confirmation. Carter Trust. One of the board members turned it slightly so Michael could see. Michael stared, confusion twisting into horror. You, he whispered, you own the company? Emma lifted her gaze slowly, meeting his eyes with calm, controlled power. I inherited it, she said. It has always been mine. The words hit him like a blow. He stumbled back a step, mouth open, searching for an explanation that didn't exist. He had spent months trying to sell data from a company that belonged to his own wife. The silence was heavy, cold, punishing. Michael tried again. Emma, I didn't know. I swear, Mr. Gray cut him off, sliding a thick packet across the table toward him. This, the lawyer said, is everything you've done in the last 6 months. Michael's shaking hands opened the folder. Inside, screenshots of emails between him and Sophie, printed from his work account logs, access logs with timestamps showing his illegal downloads, bank transfers to Sophie, highlighted by the finance department after Emma raised a concern, draft contracts for the sale of proprietary assets to a competitor's shell contact, CCTV stills of him meeting Leon in the parking lot, a picture of the flash drive he'd passed to Sophie, and finally, the flash drive itself, sealed in an evidence bag, labeled, recovered from third-party custodian, chain of custody confirmed. Michael's face drained of all color. How did you, he started, staring at the flash drive. Mr. Gray answered calmly. Our security team, with assistance from legal, confronted Monsieur Hale after receiving notice of your flagged message and your meeting location. Under the threat of legal action, she surrendered the drive. The data was verified as company property within hours. Michael swallowed, speechless. No, he whispered, staring at the photos, the documents, the undeniable proof. This isn't what it looks like. I wasn't going to... But the lies collapsed in his throat. Everything was in front of him. Every secret, every betrayal, every reckless step he took. He sank into the nearest chair, burying his face in his hands. Emma watched him, her expression unreadable. Not angry, not triumphant, just heartbreak turned into strength. Mr. Gray spoke again, voice cold but calm. Michael Collins, you attempted to sell confidential company assets and engage with a known competitor. The board has voted to terminate your position effective immediately. Legal charges are under review, and law enforcement has been notified. The room remained silent except for Michael's ragged breathing. He looked up slowly, eyes wide with fear, finally realizing the gravity of what he'd done. Then security took a step forward. Michael panicked. He stumbled up, reaching out toward Emma, desperate. Please, he whispered. Please, don't do this. We can fix it. I made a mistake. I love you, Emma. Don't ruin my life. She stood, walked toward him with quiet resolve, and leaned close enough for only him to hear. Her voice was a whisper, calm, final, and devastating. You already did. Michael's knees buckled. Security reached for his arms. Emma stepped back, her face steady, her father's strength reflected in every line. As Michael was led away, Emma felt a cold certainty settle inside her. His career was over, but the justice she set in motion was still moving. And outside that building, there was another life he had to face with nothing left to offer. Michael hit the pavement outside the company building with the force of a man dropped from a great height. Security didn't shove him. They didn't need to. The humiliation itself was already pushing him down. His ID badge lay on the ground beside him after being cut cleanly from his neck. The guards stood like silent statues behind him, waiting until he finally dragged himself upright. The doors locked behind him with a loud electronic click. Intensity crashed over him. His job gone. His access gone. His future gone. Everything he built, everything he bragged about, everything he believed he deserved vanished in seconds. Michael's hands shook as he tried the doors again. They didn't budge. His access had been shut off instantly, completely, without mercy. He stared through the glass, hoping someone might look at him with pity. No one did. Employees moved past with a mix of confusion, disgust, or avoidance. The world he once felt entitled to now rejected him entirely. He stumbled to a bench on the sidewalk, mind spinning. He grabbed his phone, his last remaining lifeline, and opened his banking app. Error message, then another. Account temporarily restricted. Please contact your bank's fraud department. He tried his credit card app. Same result. Every account, every card, every emergency fund. Frozen after the company's legal department filed a suspected corporate fraud report and flagged his activity to the bank earlier that day. Michael's breath cracked in his chest. No, 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 no! He tried calling the competitor contact, Leon Price. Straight to voicemail. No callback. Leon was cutting ties. Fast. He dialed Sophie next. Ring. 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 Finally, she answered, breathless. What do you want, Michael? It's bad, he whispered. They fired me. Emma, I didn't know. She owns everything. I'm under investigation. I need you. Please. Sophie sighed, long and irritated. So you're of no use now? Sophie, please, you said we'd... A male voice spoke in the background near her. Michael froze. Sophie lowered her voice. Listen, Michael, I didn't sign up to babysit a failure. Sophie, click. She hung up. A second later, blocked. Just like that. Michael stared at his phone in disbelief. The woman he risked everything for. The woman he betrayed his wife for. The woman he imagined a future with. Gone. Slow, cold silence wrapped around him. The betrayal hit him harder than the boardroom confrontation. Sophie had used him. She never cared for him at all. His breath turned shaky. His pride cracked. His desperation grew. He had no job, no money, no partner, no plan. Only one place left to go. He walked to the house he once shared with Emma, every step heavy, dragging humiliation behind him like a chain. The lights were on, warm, peaceful. Everything he destroyed still looked perfectly intact without him. He raised his hand and knocked. The door opened. Emma stood there, calm, steady, eyes unreadable. She looked stronger than he remembered, like someone who had finally stepped into the truth of who she was. Michael dropped to his knees right there on the porch. Emma, please, I'm begging you. I've lost everything. His voice cracked, raw. She pressured me. Sophie, she used me. She lied. I didn't mean for this to go so far. Please, Emma, help me. Tears streamed down his face, not from love, but from fear. Fear of losing the last person who ever believed in him. Emma didn't move. She didn't kneel beside him or tell him she forgave him. She simply reached inside the door frame and pulled out a large envelope. She held it out. He blinked. What is this? Her voice was soft, controlled. Your divorce papers. Michael's shoulders fell. No. Emma, please, please, don't do this. I have nothing left. Emma looked at him with a quiet sadness. Not pity, not anger, just truth. You chose that, she said. Then she closed the door. The soft click echoed louder than any shout. Michael remained kneeling, trembling, gripping the envelope like it was a lifeline he wasn't ready to open. He didn't stand. He didn't leave. He didn't breathe properly. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out with shaking hands. A notification appeared from an unknown number. Notice: you are under investigation for attempted corporate fraud. A formal interview will be scheduled. Please await further instructions from the authorities or legal representatives. Michael's breath shattered. His nightmare was only beginning. Inside the house, Emma stood still, knowing the storm outside her door wasn't finished. But for the first time, she felt that justice and freedom were finally on her side, and there was one last part of her old life she needed to put away. Emma pushed open the door to her father's old office with a force that shook the frame. The intensity hit instantly, her heart racing, her breath sharp, her eyes burning with the weight of everything that had happened. The room seemed to greet her with silence, heavy but welcoming, like it had been waiting for this moment. She stepped inside. The air felt different now, not painful, not uncertain, but full of something steady, something right. She walked toward the wooden desk she grew up sitting beside, the same desk where her father built his dreams and taught her his truths. Her fingers trembled slightly as she opened the top drawer of the locked cabinet. Inside lay the documents that tied her to this place: trust papers, inheritance files, signatures in her father's handwriting. They no longer felt like secrets. They felt like home. She reached into her pocket and pulled out her wedding ring. The gold band was cold in her palm. Once it symbolized love, devotion, a future she believed in. Now it symbolized chains she had already broken. With a steady breath, Emma placed the ring gently into the cabinet next to the trust papers. It landed with a soft metallic sound. Quiet, final, powerful, closure. She locked the cabinet and stood tall. Moments later, she entered the boardroom, where the board of directors waited. Their faces held respect now, not confusion or doubt. They rose when she entered. Mr. Gray, the company lawyer, nodded to her with pride. "Welcome, Ms. Carter. As the rightful owner, the floor is yours." Emma stepped forward, shoulders straight, voice calm. "Thank you." She didn't need to explain who she was anymore. They already knew. They had seen the evidence. They had watched her stand firm. After the meeting, she walked the halls of the company with a confidence she hadn't allowed herself to feel for years. No more hiding her identity. No more shrinking herself to protect others. She walked beside employees who now looked at her with admiration and trust. Her steps echoed with purpose. As she reached her father's portrait near the entrance, a memory washed over her, soft and warm. She was 18, nervous about the future, fear written across her face. Her father cupped her cheek and whispered, "When you're ready, you'll lead." Standing there now, looking at his picture, she whispered back, "I'm ready." She turned toward the glass doors, sunlight spilling into the lobby, lighting her path like a promise. And as she stepped outside, the final truth rose inside her, steady, strong, and free. "I didn't destroy them," she said quietly. "They destroyed themselves. I simply stepped out of their way." Fade out. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed creating it. Like, share, and comment on the lessons you've learned. Let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. See you in my next video.